We are thrilled that you are joining us today for this fascinating discussion. You are among over 260 registrants from around the world for this quarterly discussion where we hold space to further diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And as we gather, I'd love to hear from you in the chat. We treat these events as community builders, so let us know where you're from. Share your LinkedIn profile if you like, and let us know what organization you're with, or if you're between roles, that's great too. If you know of any open roles in DEI, please share that in the chat as well, so that we can help spread the word and accelerate the path for people who want to contribute their talents to this space. And as you're doing that, I want to go over some housekeeping with you to help you have the very best experience possible. First, we encourage you to edit your name and add your pronouns. To do that, just click on the three dots in your Zoom box. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, by the way. Also, let's see if we have, I don't think we have closed caption working today, but so I'm going to skip past that. But I will tell you that we have reserved 30 minutes at the end of the panel discussion to take your questions. So please put your questions that you would like addressed in the Q&A box, and everyone will have the ability to upvote on the questions that they would most like to have addressed during that last 30-minute period of today's discussion. Our team will be dropping hyperlinks to supplemental information in the chat, and we encourage you to do the same to help us all continue to build awareness. We will be sharing a recording of this webinar and a transcript from the chat, and even a template that our guest has graciously gifted so that you can create your own DEI strategic roadmap. So please watch for that follow-up email this week, early next week at the very latest. And we close today's session with my colleague Danielle, who will be telling you about how to register today, if you want to, for our Q1 2022 webinar. And she'll be telling you how you can pre-register for this cool new DEI certification training program that we are launching next year, because you asked, and we are so happy to be able to provide that to you. So we have so much to get to today, so let's get to introducing our esteemed guest, starting with our interviewer, the indomitable Arthur Benjamin. Arthur is the Senior Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at Tinuiti, the largest independent performance marketing agency in the United States. Arthur's leadership and incomparable knowledge of culture and strategy has made him a thought leader and a valued practitioner to lead Tinuiti's culture transformation and inclusion work. And we want to give a shout out today to Tinuiti for being named a finalist for Diversity and Inclusion Company of the Year at the Drum Awards for Digital Industries. So congratulations to Tinuiti, and welcome, Arthur. If you've joined our previous DEI webinars, you've seen Arthur take on the role as moderator for a whole panel of experts in the field. But for today's webinar, Arthur will be interviewing one person, Martina Winston, who, as you will soon see, has the energy and passion of an entire panel. And today, she's bringing the receipts. With more than 15 years of progressive HR experience, Martina has served as Vice President and Senior HR Partner with Protective Life for almost 7 years. At Protective Life, she spends her time coaching senior and executive leaders through strategic HR goals around people, talent, succession planning, and engagement. In addition, Martina leads Protective's diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts while also managing global talent programs in partnership with Protective's parent, Daiichi Life, based in Tokyo. Not only is Martina passionate about her work, she's also extremely engaged with her community. As a lover of group fitness, Martina has been a part of the Zumba Fitness for 10 years. She's also a passionate community volunteer with organizations like the Junior League of Birmingham, where she has recently been slated as its 101st president-elect. That's so cool. Colad Jewish Family Services, Baptist Health Foundation, United Way of Central Alabama, Shelby County Community Chair, just to name a few things that Martina is passionate about, and they are so lucky to have her. So as you can clearly see, serving others gives Martina energy, and she believes that this is part of her purpose. Martina is a South Side of Chicago native living in Pelham, Alabama, currently with her husband, Corey, and her 2 teenage children, Jada and Jordan, with their dog, Barkley Snow, and their cat, Mittens Tide, and their hamster, Squishy Marie. When Martina isn't working or serving the community, she enjoys cheering on her Pelham Panthers, the Alabama Crimson Tide, and exploring the world with her family. So, wow. So, we are so thrilled to wrap our DEI 2021 webinar series with these amazing people. And with that, it is my honor to turn the program over to you, Arthur.
Thank you so much, Sherry. I appreciate that incredible introduction. And Martina, really excited. I'm excited. There's been a lot of anticipation around this conversation, and want to officially welcome you again to this discussion around really creating an opportunity for organizations to really roll out D&I work as a roadmap. So welcome, and thank you for saying yes to this.
Of course, it's kind of hard to say yes or to say no when you have an opportunity to share the virtual stage with people that are passionate about the work that you're passionate about. And I notice as people are dropping in the chat, I've heard some people call out Chi-Town and Southside. So Chicago, I need y'all to stand up in this virtual chat. I see y'all representing. You're making me proud. You're making me proud. I see that. I see you. I see you.
Oh, that is so awesome. Yeah, you got a lot of representation going on in the chat.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us and being with us today. There's a lot for us to talk about and cover, so I really want to jump right in and get started.
Let's go for it.
All right. So talking about DEI road mapping, I would love to start with the first question for you. What recommendations would you give to the individual who's saying, hey, I recognize I need to do this work, I need to do this DEI work, but I don't know where to start? What advice, what recommendations would you give to that individual?
Yeah, Art, I think that's really a great place for us to start. I would say a common fail in diversity, equity, and inclusion work is when you go into it without a plan, or you think that your plan should be what everybody else is doing. You cannot do that. Epic fail. Stop, do not pass go, do not collect your $200, okay? You cannot do it. As I think about Protective's journey, and by the way, this is my second time in this work, and I remember saying that I would never get in this work again because it's hard, it's tough, it's tiring. When you think that you've made a couple of steps forward, there is somebody there to knock you back to say, you ain't done nothing yet. And when I was asked to step into this work about 3.5 years ago, as Protective was focusing on our renewed focus, we had a CEO change, and our CEO said, this is something that I really want to figure out for Protective. I said, I can't say yes until I get a true temperature and have a true understanding of where we are as an organization. And I asked permission if I could speak to all of our executives, every single one of them, and not with a group of people, not even with my boss, the CHRO. I wanted to have a one-on-one conversation to really understand what I was working with. No judgment. It was just a really good conversation to help me understand, how did they see diversity? How did they see inclusion? How did they even see that measure up here and within our organization? And where did they truly see our work? And so my advice to anyone that is really starting on this journey, because I truly believe it is a journey, because everyone is in a different place in their DE&I journey. It's not cookie cutter. Everyone doesn't start in the same place. And so I strongly believe that you've got to take a step back and understand where you are. And you got to be honest, Art, about where you are. You can't be making up stuff. And,
Yes.
and it's hard, Art. You know why it's so hard? Because there's so many competing things that are happening out in the environment. And by the way, congratulations on being named a finalist. You didn't tell me that. You're keeping stuff from me, Art. And so congratulations. But it's things like that that sometimes might have people kind of go astray because they're wanting these accolades or these, awards and things. And you just got to stay true to who you are and where you are in your journey. And you might say, you know what, we have nothing. We don't know what we're doing. And that's okay. I think that is okay. And you just got to be true to where you are.
I absolutely love that, Martina. I think that I would absolutely agree that one of the things that we miss out on is the opportunity to be honest. Again, it's like your journey can't be authentic if you're not honest about your starting point.
That's right.
And I think that is huge. I appreciate you sharing that because, again, there is a lot of pressure in the D&I space to make it sound like we're further along than sometimes we actually are. And I think that we miss out on the opportunity to create true transformation when we are not honest about the starting point.
And the other thing that I'll add about that, Art, is so there's this component of having those conversations and that transparency at the senior and the executive level, right? But then when you think about what that looks like deeper in your organization, if you're selling something that you want others to buy and they're not buying it, then I feel like you've lost all hope, you've lost all trust within your employees that you're asking to go along this journey with you. And so I think that that's been really important to us. I was talking to an employee just the other day, and she said, Martina, I'm not really sure if you know how impactful the work that the organization is doing, how it's been for me. She said, I've been with this organization for 15 years. She's a member of our advisory committee. And she said, but the work that I've done the last 3 years has been the most rewarding work that I have done my 15 years here. And by the way, she is a boss. She's one of the smartest people I know. She's an actuary, by the way, Protective, we're in the insurance business. So she's like super smart. And the fact that she is saying, I am telling you the last 3 years as I've helped to, shift the culture from, working in this DE&I space is when I go to bed at night, that's kind of what I'm smiling about. When I'm sitting at the dinner table talking to my children, that's what I'm starting to talk, to them about. And I'm able to take what I'm learning here and I'm able to take it with me home, which is ultimately the most important thing. Don't get me wrong, what we're doing in our organizations is really important, but if you leave it at the door when you clock out, whatever that looks like for you, then you're not doing your part at all. And so that just warmed my heart when she shared that, because she's like, that's really why I am here, because of the work that we're doing. And she said, we were really honest about where we were in our journey. And she's like, by the way, don't get me wrong, we've got a long way to go, but the organization, we were just very transparent with where we were starting and where we're trying to go. Super important.
Absolutely love that. I want to move us just a little bit further into data. I've heard us talk about data and being honest about where we're at. Talk to me a little bit about how you have leveraged data to inform your DEI roadmap. How have you all used data? Where have you gathered data? So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's great. So after you figure out where you are, then you got to support that by the numbers, right? Numbers do not lie at all. I mean, sometimes we try to manipulate the numbers, but they don't lie. And so that's what we did. We really went through an exercise of understanding our current state through interviews and stakeholder, conversations. And then we went back into our data to say, okay, let's get a really good view of our employee population. And our data showed that for Protective, we had an opportunity to take a look at how can we mature in the space of recruitment, development, and retention for gender diversity and also racial diversity. And by the way, this is another example of how you can be derailed in this work. because we let the numbers also tell the story for us. We knew that we had an opportunity with gender and racial diversity. The numbers showed that. And when people would say, well, why aren't you focusing on this? And is this not important to you? We would say, absolutely. All of those things are important to us, but the data tells us this is where we need to focus, and that's where we're going to focus. And we've actually stayed true to that. It is one of our goals specifically, on our roadmap. And the other thing too that we look at is from a data perspective, data really helps to drive and hold us accountable to everything that we do. We want a measuring stick, we go back to our data to help us see, are some of the things that we're rolling out, are our employees, are they tracking with us? Are we losing them along the way? So in the beginning, we looked at our HRIS data to see what is our current state. And then we created some kind of, I'm going to call them soft goals, not anything that we went out and broadcast, because I did not want to create bad behavior. Another myth number 2, which by the way, Sherry and Art, I did not even plan on doing this myth thing. I don't even know where this is coming from, but it's just, I'm feeling it on a Wednesday night. So myth number 2 is you can't start off with creating these goals and sharing them with your organization if you don't have the foundation and the structure. And I did have people saying, hey, where are my goals? I want the checkbox. I want you to tell me all the things. I was like, absolutely not. We don't have the foundation or the structure to create those goals yet. We've got to do it organically and the right way, because I didn't want to cause any bad behavior, which meaning if I give someone a goal, they're going to try to reach that goal and they're going to move on.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. I think that is definitely a huge miss in the performative D&I is checking boxes just for the purpose of looking like we're doing the right things. I absolutely agree with that. Can you share a little bit about what data tools you've used along the way?
Absolutely. So y'all, please don't laugh at me virtually, because I know that this is going to sound a little weird, but our systems about 3.5 years or so ago, we were doing it pretty manual. We had a rock star person on our kind of analytics team, and we were seriously like going line by line, like looking, okay, gender, check, minority set, check. I mean, we were really looking at this manual and crossing our fingers and hoping that we didn't mess up anything. That's just, again, remember what I first said is where we were in our journey. We were looking at Excel spreadsheets and counting line by line, because that's just where we were. Now we matured, I would say about now 2 years ago, we picked up a new tool called Visier. I'm not sure if we have any Visier users out here, but it's fantastic. Oh, and look, I've got like some brand. If you all don't know Visier, here you go. Again, I didn't plan on this, but I had my people analytics leader drop this off today in my office, and so he gave it to me. But Visier is a really great tool that we're using to really help us have that data in real time. Because here's another thing, our leaders didn't have access to that data. We had to manually provide it. We did start it very early in our roadmap creation and journey. We did start a dashboard that we provide quarterly, but not to everybody. Again, everybody wasn't ready, and everyone isn't ready to see where we are. And so right now we are leveraging data. So real time, we can get the information that we need to help show where are we tracking along with our gender diversity, our racial diversity, and we are measuring certain areas. So we're really looking at that full life cycle of kind of the employee experience. So what's our starting point? What do the promotions look like? What does turnover look like? All the things around attrition, and then an end game. And we look at that each quarter.
Absolutely love that. And thank you for your transparency on the Excel spreadsheet and where you started, because some of us are still there.
That's right. Hey, I think again, Art, it goes back to your first question. You have to be honest with where you are, and there is no shame of where you are.
I want to make sure we capture in the chat the name of that tool. You said Visier?
Visier. Mm-hmm.
Visier. If we can, Danielle, can you pull that back up to the screen? Martina, can you hold that bottle back up?
Oh, yes.
I
My
wanna make
partner's
sure
going to be
that
so
we
proud of
captured
me.
that. There you are. Make sure we get it in the chat for everyone. Thank you. I think we're seeing some. Thank you. I want to make sure we get that out there.
It's a fantastic tool. Fantastic tool.
And tell Vizier they owe you a check.
They do more than just a bottle.
All right, let's go into our next question. Did your organization complete any assessments prior to beginning the work?
Great question. So we only, again, manual assessments, stakeholder interviews. We spent some time, again, with our data. One thing that we did was we went out kind of into the market. Here's another, I don't know, maybe I'm going to say myth number 4. Every DE&I consultant isn't the DE&I consultant for you.
Yes.
They all got tricks in their bag.
Yes.
They all have tricks in their bag. They all are going to tell you they've got the best tool, the best training. Yes, somebody just said not all consultants are created equal. They are not all for you. And I would tell you, we probably, so when you think about assessments, or we talked to a lot of people. I think it was probably about 15 or 20 people. We had conference calls, we had in-person sessions. Of course, that was before COVID when you met with people in person and stuff. All types of whining and dining things. And we did find the person for us, which is exactly how Sherry found me, was through a session that I did in art. I think you were there as well. And some of you might have been on a session with Jennifer Brown Consulting. I think that Jennifer is great. I think her team is great. And for where we were in our journey at that time, Jennifer was exactly what we needed. Oh, I see someone just said, Holly, I see the Ally Continuum. It's the best. It's the best. And so her and her team was exactly what we needed at that time. And they really, really helped us along our journey and really helped us take a step back. And so there was a few kind of internal assessments that we did, Art, with Jennifer's team. Now, fast forward to 3.5 years. Jennifer is still she's my best friend. I don't know if she knows that, but I love her. And I think that she's fantastic. But now, fast forward, we have been in a partnership with Gardner for the last year. And where we are in our journey, I really felt like we were mature enough. Tiffany, I see, love Gardner. Yes, we felt like we were mature enough to kind of take that leap. And last year, we actually completed our first maturity assessment around our D&I work. Now, I'm going to tell you, when that link went out, Art, I was like, y'all don't kill me too bad. I know we're not, but it was a really good moment of truth. And so it was a really good opportunity for us to see, again, where are we? You've got to constantly check where you are. Constantly. Yes. That is super, super important. Super important.
And I think that's oftentimes what we're afraid of as D&I practitioners and leaders. We assume that if things have not progressed the way we hope they had, we take it personal or something like that. But I think it's really important that we stay true, to where we're at, we stay true to the progress. And I think that's absolutely amazing of you. And kudos for being a courageous leader and even making that step and doing so. Thank you for that, Martina.
Thank you.
Another question, can you address the role of ERGs in the DEI work?
Ooh, the ERG word. Okay. Again, y'all don't be mad at me and throw anything at me virtually. So this is an unpopular comment that I'm going to make, Art. And again, I'm just a little bit different in my approach.
Okay. Bring it.
So, somebody just said ERGs. Yeah. So another myth. What myth am I on, Art? Like 5? I don't know. I think 5. I'm on 5. Okay. Thank you. Myth number 5. Thank you, Holly. Myth number 5. Okay. When you're starting your diversity, equity, and inclusion work, you got to have an ERG to support it. Absolutely not. Remember me saying that if you don't have the foundation and the structure, you shouldn't have any, you shouldn't have ERGs. You don't have to do everything. You don't have to keep up with the DE&I Joneses. That is the one of the things also that we went in as an organization to say, and again, I had so much noise. I mean, this is another one of those things where you come back and you're like, gosh, is this the work that I really, really want to be in? Because everyone is just like, they're coming at me. Everybody wanted an ERG for everything. And I'm like, we're not ready. We are not. I'll bet you, I should have got a t-shirt. I should have got a t-shirt and I should have walked around every day with, we are not ready. We're not ready. No, stop asking me. Not going to happen. I mean, it was pretty much like once a week. And
you need to trademark that.
I do. I really do. And Art, I mean, seriously, if we would have started our ERGs 3.5 years ago, they would have failed. Our employees were not ready. Our leaders were not ready. And quite frankly, I was not ready. That's another thing. As DE&I practitioners and leaders, sometimes we jump in without even knowing what that means, without even understanding, again, where is our organization? And quite frankly, another thing that happened when I went in and I had those executive stakeholder interviews, that was the first thing that I heard from probably about half of the leaders. The first thing they said is, oh, are we about to have ERGs and stuff? And I said, no, why does she think that? ERGs don't mean diversity, equity, and inclusion at all. And for some reason, there's this feeling that, you're not doing the work if you don't have ERGs. So, okay, let's fast forward now, Art. We are in the end, we're Q4 2021. I am proud to announce that in 2022, Protective will be rolling out our play, Protective's version of ERGs, which are called our growth network groups. So for our employees, it's important for our employees to have the ability to learn, to grow, and to connect. Now, again, that might not be for anybody else, but it took us almost 4 years to figure out we are now ready. And to the point, so y'all like praise moment, we were supposed to have a town hall today. It got canceled because one of our executives had a scheduling conflict. So we're moving it to next week. And our CEO was like, okay, great. Now can we get Martina to join and be a part of that meeting so she can talk about our growth networks? Because I'm excited to share this with our employees and our organization. And I'm like, yes. Again, we weren't ready. We were not ready 3.5 years ago. Yes, won't he do it, Holly? Every day. Every day. So I'm just really excited. I just got goosebumps talking about it because we would not have been ready for that. We would have been met with tons and tons of I would say an opportunity to derail and really not support. But now that we've got leaders saying, that's right, defensiveness, now that we've got leaders saying that we're ready, and also employees saying that we're ready. I think that it just makes my heart flutter. It's great.
Oh my gosh, Martina, you have had, there's been so many mic drop moments that you've already given us in this first half. And I absolutely love everything you're saying. You and I hear everyone shouting in the chat that everybody wants to be your BFF all of a sudden, but
oh, yay.
So I am loving it, absolutely loving it. I want to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit and unpack a little bit about your sample of what you're doing around road mapping and allow you to kind of speak to that for a little while.
No, thank you, Art. So it's been a really great evolution around this road mapping kind of exercise and journey. I'm gonna be, again, really transparent because I'm with my best friends now, so I can really let my hair down because y'all are now my best friends. I honestly didn't know if this was gonna work. I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't know. I was like, I just didn't know. And I am a execution-driven type of leader. But I also, one thing that you might remember hearing from Sherry is that I wear a lot of different hats at Protective. So I'm not fully dedicated to D&I. And I had to really take a step back to think about, how in the heck am I going to get this done? I also have a very high level of accountability for myself. And since I said that I was going to do this again, I told myself that I was going to do it right. I've got a second time, there's second chance. So I'm going to do it differently. And we talk a lot about road mapping, but to be honest with you, Art, I had never seen anyone do it great, ever, in any HR COEs or anything. Like, people talk about it, but it never happened. And so I sat down with one of my team members who is a genius. And I said, let's just throw something up on the wall and let's see if it happens. Let's see if we can make it work. And so Sherry, Danielle, I would love for us to show where we started. So this here is our 2019 sample roadmap. Now, I want to take you all back a little bit, because this roadmap here is a strategic roadmap. We wanted to make sure that everything we did had some level of value and impact. So we weren't just throwing things up on the wall. We weren't just trying to put some things on a sheet of paper to satisfy the executive team to say, hey, we're going to do some stuff, right? And so we decided to divide our work up into 4 key areas of focus that aligned with our goals. So we have 3 goals. Our 3 goals is that our leaders are creating and building collaborative and agile teams. The other is that we are building inclusive leaders to help to drive inclusive environments, to drive business and performance results. And then our third is that we are creating a space where we are growing, developing, retaining, and recruiting gender and racial diverse people into our organization in leadership areas. And I got more visuals. Again, I did not plan on this, Sherry and Art, I'm sorry, but we put this on a little card. So here are our goals that we shared with our leaders. We started with leadership. We didn't even share this with all throughout the organization. We started with our leaders. So I said it starts and stops with leadership. So if we have these 3 goals, how are we going to accomplish it? So we said, number 1, business value. It has to have value to the business. We are going to hold ourselves accountable through data and accountability, and we are going to create a space for our employees, leaders, to learn. And we already know that recruiting is one of those foundational pillars to diversity, equity, and inclusion work. And so we have our initiatives, and then we have an owner. So I was like, I'm not owning all this stuff. I got other stuff to do. So we got other people to help to support that. And then I created a timeline. And this is the significant game changer for me and for my team, was what's the level of impact and what is the level of effort? So that's really important as I think about bringing on different people into the work. So this is where we were 2019. And I can share with you that we actually ended 2019 achieving 83% of the initiatives that we have on our roadmap, which I can tell you was amazing. Now, some of you might say 83%, that's like a B, Martina. You look like you're an A type of girl. I was kind of sometimes a C because I like cutting up in class. But I can tell you that 83% was exactly where we needed to be, because some of the things on the list we weren't ready for. And so when I sat down with my CHRO, and again, remember, we have this dashboard, and you can see that right there. Develop and implement a DE&I dashboard. Check, we did that. And then when I sat down with our CEO and our CHRO to say, we are 83% complete, and they were like, okay, well, what happened to the other? I said, we weren't ready. We thought we were ready, but we weren't ready. And by the way, this roadmap was not created just by me. I pulled together a diverse group of leaders, managers, and individual contributors from across the organization to help to create this roadmap for shared ownership. So Danielle, let's go to where we are today, because I'm really proud of this. I've grown a little bit in my journey. And so what we've done is each year, even though we created the next 3 years, every year in November, I hold a strategy session with my diversity, equity, and inclusion advisory committee, and we iterate to see, okay, where are we in our journey, knowing what we know now, where do we need to make a shift? So, in 2019, the roadmap was like 1 page. Now I have 4 pages. So each of those focus areas have its own page, and you can see the level of maturity here. So at the top, we created from 2 statements. Where do we want to go from and to what? And that helps to guide us with everything that we do, Art. And then you can see here for business value, we have the initiative and the definition, because you know what? I messed up. I just threw up some idea of what we're going to do. And then people were asking me every 5 minutes, well, what does that mean? What does that mean? And I was like, okay, I got it. I hear you. Here's a definition and here's the initiative. So you might remember I said, I'm not going to be doing all this work. I need some help, right? And so we had the owner. But what I found out throughout the last 3 years is that the owner needed support. They needed help. So in 2021, this is our newest version of 2021. This is the newest version of the roadmap, but we added an owner and also support. So for example, this year, which I'm super proud of, we stood up our first ever supplier diversity program, and we named our first supplier diversity manager ever in the organization. And so we have an owner, which is vendor management to support, but as the owner, but we knew that we needed people to support that part of the organization. So we have our COE, which is my team, our communications team to really help them build and grow on their mission statement, and tons of work. They've got a website. I mean, they're kicking butt and taking names. You can see where we started that work was in Q1. You can see our status is checked. We knew the impact was going to be high, and we also knew that our effort was going to be high. And then the thing that I'll show you at the bottom, it says ongoing efforts. We did not want anyone to think that the work that we had done was gone. We are still working on our DEI communication strategy. We're still in this strong partnership with the CEO Action Pledge for Diversity and Inclusion. So we wanted to make sure that there's still some foundational things that are helping to drive us. The other thing that you might be asking is, what are those purple or blue dots? What are those? So Art, do you remember me telling you that I did an assessment with Gartner? So the purple dots, and we have a little grid, but I did not have permission from Gartner to share that with y'all. So we did remove that. But we wanted to show which areas which initiative within our roadmap shows a level of maturity for us. And so there's a color coding. And so that was also another example for the executive team to show that if we do this, this will help us mature to that, if that makes sense.
That is absolutely amazing, Martina. Absolutely amazing. I am not a newbie to DEI roadmapping, and what you've shared is just incredible. Thank you for your transparency and your openness around what you are doing at Protective Life. I think this is incredible, and I
appreciate that.
And I'm sure it's helping. I'll create a one-on-one. You and I will talk privately after this is over.
Got it.
But absolutely love this. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
I just think, as I shared with the community here, with my besties, that I didn't know if it was going to work. I didn't know. Someone just asked, how did I calculate the 86%? So let me go back. Okay, so in 2019, let's see, we hit 83%, I think I shared. In 2020, we hit 86%. And we're probably going to hit for 2021, probably around that 80-ish% as well. You know, there's been a thing, COVID, return to work, workplace flexibility. There's been some things happening that we had to pivot a little bit on. And how I calculate it is the things that we are accomplishing. Once that is checked off, I can technically calculate it as complete. Now, it's never done, but for us, we've started the work and we have an ability to sustain it. So that is us kind of checking the box, because there are some things that I'm like, so for example, you see begin conversations around D&I, health and wellness. I'm checking that box was already checked because I just completed the Q3 dashboard. And there were some different things that we wanted to make sure that we had in play. And there was definitely some method to our madness, because what happens in Q4? Open enrollment. So there's all these things. And that's the other thing that I didn't share, Art, is we can't do any of this alone. As diversity, equity, and inclusion practitioners and leaders, you've got to make sure that you've got the buy-in and the support from your peers. If you all roll up through HR teams, or if you're on corporate social responsibility teams or foundation teams, you've got to make sure that you all are lock in step. So before my roadmap is ever complete, I've got a timeline. I have my strategy sessions in November. I socialize in December, and by the time we're done celebrating with our friends and families for our holidays that we recognize, then by the time January hit, we're ready to execute. But I solicit feedback from our executive teams, from my HR peers, HR COE leaders, and other key stakeholders like our brand team, our communications team, our government affairs teams. So when we are starting off the new year, everyone knows what we are committing to. So no one can say, well, I didn't know we were doing supplier diversity. Yes, you did, because we talked about it. Like, now you might have forgot, but we talked about it and you agreed to support the effort. So I get consistent and I ask, is there anything here that you feel like we can't deliver on? Is there anything here that might be missing? So I want to make sure that there is some shared ownership across the organization in the work that I'm doing, because diversity, equity, inclusion, it doesn't start or stop with me. I'm just here to help provide guidance and support. And I tell people that all the time. When leaders say, well, I didn't know we were doing this and you're not doing this, I said, no, my role is here to help to create the space for everyone to be successful in diversity, equity, and inclusion. But you, Mr. or Mrs. Leader, diversity, equity, and inclusion starts and stops with you, not just me.
Exactly. That's absolutely amazing. I have another question for you, Martina. I wanted to get into a little bit of the initiatives that you all selected for your road mapping. How did you prioritize the right initiatives to make the decision not to overcommit, or, you know, can we reach this goal? Is this obtainable? Is this realistic? How did you all prioritize that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So you might recall that we started developing this 3-year roadmap in October of 2018. And then on my birthday, January 28th, in 2019, we sat down with the CEO and the executive team to present our 3-year roadmap. Now, can you think about where we were in 2019? Just as a word, just think about where we were. So much has changed, Art. So much has changed from what we thought we knew in 2019 to what we know today. And so from a prioritization standpoint, yeah, that's right, pre-George Floyd. From a prioritization standpoint, I meet quarterly with my COE and we spend time looking at the roadmap. So like, I already know pretty much by the end of Q1 what we're going to be able to get done and what we're not going to be able to get done for the year. And we're constantly iterating and thinking about, you know, what are we, but we use that roadmap. Again, it kind of goes back to that accountability piece. We use the roadmap for checks and balances all the time, because there are so many things that's happening in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space till you can get distracted. So today, this is a real life example. Like, this is fresh, hot off the press. This was my 3:00 meeting with my boss and the HR management team. So we're talking about just our overall HR strategy, and we get to the DE&I section, and my boss says, wait a minute, Martina, on here it says that you're behind on delivering on inclusive leadership training. And I was like, I'm not behind. I already told y'all in Q1 that I wasn't gonna get that done this year. And she was like, you know what? You're absolutely right. Oh my gosh, I forgot. Let me take that off. So you've got to continue, again, to be honest. That to me is the name of the game. You got to be honest with where you are and also communicate it early and often. So I would not have done anybody any good if I would have now in Q4 told my team that we weren't going to be able to deliver on the inclusive leadership training. I told them back at the beginning of the year. Very ambitious was I, because last year we trained all of our people leaders, over 600 leaders, on inclusive leadership training. And I said in 2021, I was going to have some on the shelf training, I was going to have some in-person virtual training, and I was going to have training for all of our 3,600 employees. What was I thinking? No. But what I did do was created a space for our employees to engage, thinking about our virtual environment and all of these distributed teams. So we created a Diversity Month series where our employees have an opportunity to engage and learn and listen and understand shared experiences. So I'm like, that's good enough for me.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And I love your framing of your role being to really create space. And oftentimes in diversity and inclusion, especially as practitioners, as executive leaders, as thought leaders, we can oftentimes look at our role as being we have to be the change agent that does all the change. And in order for us to show value. And I love the fact that you reframe that and say, no, my job is to create space for you all, for leaders, for employees, to all be a part of that change agent, change management work. I love that.
That's right. By the way, this is the like praise hand emoji.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. That's my role. And because we can't do it all. That's not realistic.
Oh my gosh, I wish I could high five you right now.
Like, that's not realistic. And Art, remember, this is my second time around. That's why I said I didn't want to do this before, because I tried to do it all and I kept getting upset with myself because the change wasn't happening. And I was like, but I'm doing my part. And it's up to you and you and you and you to help to create that. And, that's the other thing that we have to be comfortable with, because again, now this is again being really direct, is that you can have all of these fantastic initiatives and programs, and the culture can be really, really great. But if the leaders aren't playing the role, if they're not doing their part, it doesn't matter. All the bells and whistles, it doesn't matter. You could be the best DE&I leader, and anytime someone has an opportunity, they come talk to you and you make them feel good. But when they go back to their team and they do their work, if their leader isn't creating a space for them to thrive and to be successful, it doesn't matter the work that you do. Which is why I say at Protective, I've spent the last 3 years, which we have still a lot of work to do, but we have really focused on our leaders in this space, because it starts and it stops with leadership.
I absolutely love that. And I absolutely agree. Thank you so much for that. I have one final question for you.
Okay.
What are some expectations we should have around DEI change management and culture transformation? We hear all the times that, inclusion is a journey, D&I is a journey. What expectations should we have? Can we go in today and be winning awards tomorrow?
No, not at all. I mean, I think our expectations are we have to be really open. And I would also say, imagine the impossible as well. So remember, I told you all that I didn't know if it was going to work. And what's been really interesting is that I've had more people talk to me about this roadmap than I have ever could imagine. And not only, obviously, we're here external with my best friends, and I'll tell my best friends anything. So I'm glad to share this with you all. But even within the business, I have business leaders. I was on a call a couple of weeks ago, and our vendor management team's like, we really love this roadmap that Martina has. And so we're going to start using it. All of my HR peers are like, we're going to use the roadmap template and structure that Martina. I never thought that. So I say imagine the impossible, because when you think something might not work, it works. Don't be afraid to fail and fail fast and get back on the horse and then ride it again. I am so glad that my boss took me to breakfast that one day at 7:30 in the morning, which I'm not a morning person. So I'm like, I really don't want to be here because I'm tired and sleepy. But I'm so glad that I had the conversation with her to tell my story as to why I would do this work again and why I would not do it again. And I said, if we are not serious and if we just want to check the box, I'm not your girl. But if we want to really roll up our sleeves, get our hands dirty, and understand clearly where we are, then I want to be a part of that work. And I can tell you there's some things that I've tried that didn't work out as well. And I've had a really great leader that has been a partner with me in the work. And I think that that's been really important. She's also learning as well. She's on this journey too. And so I love that we have an opportunity to collaborate. And sometimes we have this really big, grandiose ideas, Art, and then we're like, we can't do that. And, I think that it's great. And I'm not sure if I would be where I am today if I didn't have that support and that leadership, and also the autonomy to try some things a little different and say, let's just give it a try and see what works. And then when it doesn't work, everyone knows they can count on Martina to say, yeah, that didn't work. And say, but I'm going to try it again. I'm going to try again. So when I think about expectations, Art, I think it goes back to, again, just imagine the impossible, and don't give up. I cried a lot last year around this time in a lot of meetings. And it wasn't all so much about, it was definitely fueled by some of the things that we all went through, but it was more about me thinking about the role that I was playing in that work. And I had to really have a long, hard talk with myself to say, you know what, Martina, you've been Black all your life. You've been a woman all your life. These problems have been here all your life. You can make a difference where you are, but you can't change everything. And when I realized that, I think I've been kind of moving a little different. Like I've got a different kind of swag, once I realized that, because it was tough. It was really tough.
I can say I've been doing this work for a long time, Martina. And as Sherry mentioned earlier, I have moderated multiple more panels than I can count over the recent years. Talking to you is like a breath of fresh air. Your transparency, your openness, your vulnerability, your ability to speak truth to power, your ability to humanize the D&I work is huge. Is oftentimes as D&I leaders, we come to conversations like this, like we have to have all the answers, we have to have it perfect. Nothing we ever tried failed. Oh no, we always got the leadership buy-in on first try. We always got, and I love the fact that you come being vulnerable and honest about the fact that no, sometimes I did miss. but I learned from it and I got up and I wasn't afraid to try it again because it created another opportunity for me to learn. So again, thank you so very much for this conversation. It has been an absolute pleasure. And I am going to hand it over to Sherry for Q&A. And thank you, everyone, again.
I'm speechless. I'm a little bit speechless. Did I tell y'all that this is going to be great? We know who needs a panel when you have Martina and Art. That was amazing. Oh my gosh. Thank you for bringing the receipts. That was so amazing. And the Q&A has exploded. So I'm so appreciative of the upvote potential. Both of you are just absolutely just wonderful. The chat log is just blowing up where everybody wants to be besties now. So thank you. I love the vulnerability of this space. Yeah, I did meet Martina in the Jennifer Brown community that Art hooked me up to. And I love the Jennifer Brown chats. And when I first saw you there, I was like, we've got to get this woman. And you immediately were like, yep, I'll be happy to do it. Because everybody was like, roadmap, we need the roadmap. So it's the end of 2021. People are thinking about their strategy. It's really important to me that this not be a performative or, that's something that we did back in 2020 because of the George Floyd murders or, things that are just performative. This is a real culture transformation, and it doesn't happen by 3:00 on Friday, no matter what, the CEO says that they want. It's real. It's changing hearts and minds. So thank you for sharing your wisdom.
Absolutely. Well, Sherry, thank you for the opportunity. I'm so glad that you reached out. And Art, we can just chat it up. Let's just open up a line. Art and I are just going to talk. Everybody can just listen. Well, thank you all for making it easy. And I appreciate the love in the chat. You all are great. I'm sure we can flip the script and I can go into the chat and someone else can come on here. And I know you all have great nuggets as well. I've just been, as I think when Sherry was reading my bio, I do believe that this is my purpose. And I'm not going to say it's my purpose like DE&I, but my purpose is people.
Yeah. And
creating space. That's just, it's just who I am. And it's what I believe in. And I hope that people, I hope you all do walk away with some nuggets and some information. And maybe I didn't share anything that was new, but maybe you're just like refueled and refired up. And tomorrow when you go into work, hey, it's Friday Eve. So be excited about that. Number one. Then say, you know what, I'm refreshed. I'm going to try something different. I know some things maybe not be working out the way that it should be. And the other thing, like for those of you that have teams, and even if you don't have teams, I'm sure you've got some like dotted line or indirect folks, go give them high fives virtually or in person, social distance, all the things that we're doing. But like, tell them thank you for going on this journey with you. Like it is so important. And then say, we've got work to do. Mm-hmm. Like, join me. We've got work to do. Let's continue this fight together.
Love.
Like if you do nothing else, just like high five them, tell them thank you. They've all worked super, super hard. And then let's continue. Even if you thought you weren't doing stuff, you're doing stuff.
Yeah.
I promise.
Oh my gosh. Okay. We're going to try to get to some of these Q&As. So the one that had the most upvotes, and you can check this out in your version too, Martina. But Evelyn asked, how do you handle balancing and not tokenizing other forms of diversity? Because we often just, we start with gender or race, things that are mostly can be seen. But what about neurodiversity, other forms of abilities and lived experiences? What goes in the bucket?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. I'm assuming, Sherry, was that to me or to Art?
To either one of you, but I'm assuming let's start with you, Martina. And
okay.
Art.
Okay. And then, of course, I would love Art to jump in. I do think that that's really important because when we kind of stuck our necks out to say that we were only going to focus on gender and racial diversity, I received some backlash into that. And quite frankly, some people that were really upset. And how I combated that was we're starting there because quite frankly, it's something that we can measure. And it was important for us to almost like a pilot test and learn some stuff. Like we're going to start with things that we can measure. And then we will transition into things that are not so easily seen. But the other thing that I shared, as this comes up all the time, is what we are trying to do is create a space where diversity and inclusion, and even now equity, is a part of everything that we do. I really try to stay away and shy away from, it's a new program. It's not a program. It's a part of our DNA. It's who we are. And you might even notice on our roadmap, we were really just focused on D and I first. We weren't ready for the E. And this year, probably in the last 6 months, we've been spending time trying to understand, what does equity mean for protective?
Yeah.
And so again, I think it's important as you think about, how can you not get into a space where you don't want anyone to feel like they're not important or they're not heard, or again, we were really transparent with why we were starting there, and then opening up the door to create a space for us to get ready for other forms of diversity. That was something that was important for us.
Yeah, I love that. Art, do you have anything to add?
I mean, it's Martina. It's hard to go behind Martina. But, I would just add echo what she's already said earlier about, really being aware of where you're at, knowing where you're starting. And I think it makes it easy to handle balancing other forms when you're really authentic about asking the question, are we ready for that? And I think it's not, sometimes we think balancing means that everything has to be going on all at the same time, launched all at the same time. And I think I love the fact that Martina mentions that it's okay to say, hey, we're going to start here, but we're just not ready to tackle these. And when you're attentive to where you're starting, then the balance becomes easier because your organization is ready to have the neurodiversity conversation, or English as a second language, or whatever else you bring to the forefront of the D&I lens. But until that is the case, then you're really putting the cart before the horse when you're trying to balance it out, and you're just not there as an organization from a maturity perspective.
Thank you so much for answering that. That was one of my head scratchers for a long time. It's like, what goes in the bucket? Because you can start to see everybody's different. So I love the fact that what can you measure? We have to choose. And I love that. Terrific answers. Yeah. Okay, so Holly, Martina, your new bestie, asked, what advice do you have to begin recalibrating misguided DEI initiatives that have caused more harm than provided solutions? She said, I asked because often we talk about starting this work from scratch, but that process looks different when there's a need to scrap and rebuild.
Ooh. Holly, Holly's been coming with it all night. She is fired up. I love it. Okay. So, I think that is really interesting, Holly, because when you are part of an organization that believes that they've been doing all the things, and then maybe you come in to say, maybe you haven't been doing all the things, I also kind of had to be, I'm going to say, kind of checked with that too, which is why you might hear me say, Protective renewed their focus on diversity and inclusion. Even though we didn't have necessarily a center of excellence, or we didn't have, one person named as a diversity, equity, and inclusion leader, it probably wasn't a good showing for any organization, no matter where you are, to say, we're just starting to focus on D&I. But quite frankly, that is the reality. We know that several organizations, it was hip, it was hot, it was on TikTok, so everybody now want to do it, right? I really think, Holly, messaging is super important in your refocus. And there has to be a common alignment around what that messaging is going to be. So if you recall, when I went to our executive team and stakeholders, I talked to them about this renewed focus. And everyone they was like, okay, I'm smelling what you're cooking. Okay. I went in with that. Hey, I'm not knocking anything that we've done. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying that we're now in a space where we need to renew. It also, at the time, again, me being super transparent, I was actually a part of an organization prior to Protected, a retail organization that had this saying called Renew Blue, and I remembered it. And they were going through a transformation. I don't know if any of you all are here from Best Buy, but I used to be a district HR manager for Best Buy, and they were going through a transformation as brick and mortar stores were going through all this crazy stuff. And their renewed focus was called Renew Blue. And I remembered that. And that's where I actually got it from. Okay, kudos to Best Buy. They get the thing. But that's really where that came from. So I think you've got to go into those conversations. Communication matters. Bless you, Art. Communication matters. And we made sure that our CEO, our CHRO, and other executives, all of our communication, it was very consistent.
Yes.
So everyone knew that consistency around communication was super important.
I love that. Art, bless you. Anything you want to add?
Just really quick, I would just say, be clear on your why. I think it's important if you're talking about, I love Martina's statement of that renewed focus. I think being intentional about your why, I absolutely agree with the comms. I think just making sure that your why is clear. Why are we recalibrating? What is the reason for the renewed focus? Doesn't have to be bad or good, but again, I think that your why needs to be clear. And I think that that's going to help guide conversations, that's going to help guide buy-in, and I think that's going to help your strategy. Without a why, I think you run the risk of repeating the same mistakes that the first cycle made without that why. So that's what I would add.
I like that, grounding in the why. I love that.
Yeah,
okay,
that's great.
Love it. All right, Erin. Erin is curious to know what specific data is used by your employee resource groups to help create and drive DEI goals.
Art, I'm going to let you take this one because y'all remember we haven't gotten them created yet. They're launching in 2022. I don't know. I'll let y'all know later. Part 2, Sherry, I have to come back.
I love it. Art, you want to take it?
She would give me the hard one. Let me reread the question again.
I think Martina was really clear as far as they're concerned. ERG is not the place to start, and they're not even doing it yet. So how about so? And I don't want to cause a he said, she said here. But.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with Martina. I don't think, if I'm understanding the question correctly, curious to know what specific data is used by your ERGs to help create and drive DEI goals. I'm assuming they're asking the question of when you finally create ERGs, what data do you use to drive your DEI goals? I'm not sure I actually understand fully the question. Martina, do you have any insight?
Yeah, so as I think about, and this has kind of come up a little bit as we are creating, so we're working on, we just wrapped up our governance structure for our growth networks. We've got our guiding principles for our growth networks. And that is one of the things that we're thinking about is how do we help provide guidance to our growth networks who are going to want to just go full charge ahead?
Yeah.
And one thing that I've talked to my team about is us really thinking about staying true to our goals. Remember, these goals right here, those aren't going to change for the next 3 years. We still believe that it is the right thing for us to do. Growing inclusive and diverse leaders, creating inclusive environments, and then increasing our overall gender and racial diversity. And so my feedback or my advice would be just to stay true to what you already have in place, because what's going to happen is these folks are going to be super, engaged, which is great.
Right.
And you don't want to smash any of that momentum, but you also don't want to go left either. You want to keep guiding them in the right way, and they can bring different things to the table, different experiences, different suggestions, different best practices. But what I again think is kind of another kind of myth is ERGs come together and they create their own goals and their own, way of how they want to work. And then it's not aligned with where the organization has already committed to.
Right.
And then you don't get buy-in, you don't get executive support.
Yes. Yeah, I love it. Yeah. So so the ERGs probably should not be the source of creating those goals. It really should start, I think, with strategic alignment. What's the business? What are we trying to achieve as an organization? What are the strategic goals? And then where does that align with what we're doing in the DEI space or just the D&I space? Awesome. Erin, do not apologize. A lot of people have voted on that question, so it wasn't just you. Everybody's cool. All right, Charisse, I really love the roadmap for the impact column. Can you share how you're measuring things like aligning D&I messaging with CSR framework?
Yeah, so we here at Protective, we know, I'm not sure how many of you all are familiar with Protective, but we actually went through a really big rebranding here in the last month that we announced externally. I am in Birmingham, Alabama. Roll Tide. I'm in Birmingham, Alabama, and we just opened up a brand new stadium here in the city, which is a huge economic, growth engine for our city, and such a great commitment to our community. And with that, we knew that we needed to really start to move into the CSR space because that's not something that we had really been focused on. Kind of at this, I'm calling it like a community of practice level. And so what we wanted to make sure, because if you have not heard or understand a lot about the Birmingham community and our history, we have a lot of rich history. And it really makes us who and what we are as a community. We were putting this stadium smack dab in the middle of an underrepresented, underserved community. And they were not happy about us putting that stadium in their backyard.
Yeah.
And so as we were going through this part of the journey, we said it is strongly important that we think about equity, we think about inclusion, and we think about diversity. So we've got to make sure our messaging is solid. We can't go out and talk about things that we're supporting these areas when the things that we're doing don't back up what we're saying.
Yeah.
And so that was really important. So when we think about the work, Protective is a very, very, very passionate organization about serving the community. And so one of our kind of pillars, as well as we think about areas of focus, is thinking about not only just service, so financial contribution, but how can we deploy our employees out into those communities to say, we're happy to give you money, but you can't get our money if you don't want our people. Yeah. And so it's just been really great for us to reposition ourselves into our community. Now we've got an opportunity to now filter this across our organization because we're not just in Birmingham. We have core offices in other parts of the US. And so we are now going to take that model in Cincinnati and St. Louis. We're going to do that, across our footprint. But it was a really good learning moment for us. So we're like, hey, everybody, you're getting a stadium and it's going to be great. We're like, we don't want your stadium.
Yeah.
We don't want you.
That's not helping. That's not helping me. Wow. That's interesting. Art, how about you? What's the Tinuiti alignment between the D&I messaging and within the CSR framework?
So it's a great question. We actually are just rolling ours out next year. So we're just rolling out CSR next year. But we are really intentional about, as Martina mentioned, really mobilizing our employees. We don't want to just write checks. We want to make sure that our employees feel as though they have an opportunity to give back. They have an opportunity to partner. This is what I call value alignment. An opportunity for our employees to have value alignment with the organization and give back, whether that is planting a tree, if you care about that, whether that is giving back to a middle school, a high school. We're currently looking at, how can we sponsor or co-sponsor laptops for a underrepresented middle school in a low income neighborhood. We're looking at a lot of opportunities to give back in the community, but we don't want to just write a check. We want our employees to feel like they were a part of the experience. And again, that ties to value alignment. And I think, and I don't know if Martina agrees or not, I think value alignment is a very under communicated addition to D&I work. We don't talk about value alignment a lot, and value alignment oftentimes can be a game changer. I'm getting into another conversation, but a game changer in retention, because employees love to stay where they feel like me and my employer care about the same things. And so the opportunity to give back to their community, especially for millennial and Gen Zers, is at the forefront of a lot of their thought process. So for us, we're excited to be launching that. Just had an email conversation with my CEO today about it. He's excited about it. And then we're looking at ways not only for individuals to give back, but we're also looking at ways for them to benefit. So if you give back in the community representing the organization, we're going to give you time off again on top of you giving back, which is another great incentive for employees.
I love it. Modeling those values, not just putting them on the wall and checking the box and going back to business, but putting them in. I love it, love it, love it. All right. Holly asks, what specific criteria do you use to evaluate and engage DEI consultants? Ooh, good question.
Ooh, that's a good one. My girl. Gosh, I love her. I love her. She is so good. A couple of things that we've done is we have, of course, there's always a great opportunity for us to have, I would say, specific conversations with, do you feel like you were able to connect? I think that's really important. Something that I always do, if you remember, I said I think somebody else also kind of co-signed on this, not every consultant is created equal. I said they're not all for everybody. It was important for me to spend time with that consultant before I let them loose in the organization. Several conversations to really understand, are you just getting something off the shelf and cookie cuttering and then slapping Protective's name on it? It was important for us to really mold that for us and help them see where we are in our journey. I keep talking about that because that's so important. And of course, Jennifer team did a really good job of that. Another measurement is I wanted to make sure to check the temperature of the people that participated in those sessions. Did you feel like, did you get what you expected to get out of that? And the other thing that I did is I got the feedback in the moment. We survey people to death. And people have survey fatigue and they get tired. And so they're like, let me just go ahead and give them 5 stars so that I don't have to have this in my inbox. But I always ask for that. We asked that feedback in the moment in those sessions while people were sitting right there.
Yeah. I love that. You really do have to connect. This is a really deep level work. You cannot just be performative about it. People have to trust you. You've got to build those trusted relationships. So I'm not really sure that it's measurable quantitatively so much as it's maybe a qualitative measurement.
Yeah, Art, for sure.
Yeah. How about you, Art? Have you worked with consultants in this space?
Yes, I think one of the biggest things for me is also doing my homework on other organizations they work with. Yeah. I think it's really important to know what organizations they work with, what progress have you seen in those organizations. I have come across consultants that have their own agendas. I've come across consultants that, you just, it's such a gambit of just issues that can arise, or they create one deck and they just change the name on the deck and it's the exact same deck for every company. And you can just tell this person did not study our culture. It did not study the temperature of our leadership. It is clear that the person, and so why would I, as Martina said, let you loose in our organization when you didn't value us enough to study who we were? And I think that is because trust me, I'm going to study you. If you don't value us enough to study us, then this is a misalignment. And I would rather move on and get someone. And by the way, all of you know this who are here, except probably those who are in chat. I am a huge fan of Jennifer Brown, like absolutely a huge fan of hers. Yes, and her consulting firm. So I think, again, taking the time to align, I'm gonna keep using that word, to align, to ensure that the value you are placing on this is equal or exceeded in the value that the consultant is placing on the work as well. I think that's going to be huge.
I think, bye, Holly. Oh my gosh, I agree, because that's where Martina said you have to start where you really are. And if your consultant just makes some assumption about where you are and gives you a cookie cutter, that's completely the wrong direction to go. So makes total sense. I think we have time.
And Sherry, do you mind if I add something really quick? Because we're having a JBC Love Fest, and she's probably like, my ears are burning. So, and I think too, see, as you brought up, Art, I think another thing that's important is they've got to listen. Like, they've got to listen to you. And what I thought was super interesting, I went into my relationship with the consultant, with JBC, with, I know I want to do this roadmap. I don't know what it looks like. And they did try to help me. They really did. But it didn't work. Mm-hmm. And I told them it didn't work. Mm-hmm. And I remember one of their senior consultants like, well, Martina, what you created is exactly not what we have. And this is what works for you. Yeah. And they really gave me the space. Like, they weren't trying to sell me anything. They weren't trying to push, and I appreciate that, because to your point, Art, there's so many people that's just trying to, push things, and it just doesn't work at all.
I love that. Speaking on the consultant side, and I've been on the other side of the desk, not in the DEI space, but, from a consultant side, I think there is certainly value in times when you say, you know what, you're actually living this. You're on the practitioner side. You've been doing this for so long. You look great to me. I don't think you need me. I think what you're doing is absolutely amazing. If I can support you, if I can help you, if I can give you some templates, I'd be happy to. But you're doing an awesome job. You don't, maybe you had a little imposter syndrome, or maybe you just think, I just don't have time. It could be that, just someone with extra hours. But it's also, I think, important to hear that I think you're doing amazing. I don't think you need me.
Yeah. And I remember when I told Jennifer, we were talking about ERGs, and I told her, she was like, I wrote a book about ERGs. It's like, I know, Jennifer, I'm just saying. It's
Sorry.
Sorry. Like, I know, I'm just, so yeah, I think, I think that's so important. I'm so glad that question was asked. Thanks to whoever asked that question.
Yeah, I think so too. I think let's go ahead and move on. We do have a few other questions in the Q&A, but I think I really want to save a little time on the back end for everybody to unmute themselves and give giant shout outs to these two amazing people. But Danielle, do you want to kind of wrap up this part of what we're doing? And I know I've got some work to do too.
I'm going to try to be as quick as I can, but first of all, I just want to say thank you so much, Martina. I'm in line with everybody else on wanting to be your best friend and spend some more time with you. And I know we'll have more opportunities to involve you, I hope. And Art, thank you so much for leading this conversation. It's a really hot topic right now. We had a lot of people asking for it. So I really appreciate you both taking the time tonight to share. I'm just going to, for those of you that are still on, I'm just going to share my screen real quick just to update you on a few important notes. First and foremost, as was mentioned earlier, Martina and her team at Protective were so kind and generous to offer their template for their strategic D&I roadmap. And so this is just a screenshot, but we're going to actually share that in the follow-up email that you will get by the end of the week. That includes the recording for today, the chat log, but it'll also include this template. Thank you, Martina, for being willing to share that. I just love that you're just like, we're here to, share wisdom with one another and bolster each other up. So I just love your attitude around that. So thank you. So you will receive the template along with the recording and the chat log by the end of this week is my goal to get that to you. Secondly, I just want to let you know that we're going to be kicking off a new webinar series next year. Our kickoff webinar is on February 16th. It's called Building a Strong Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Foundation. As you can see, Art's one of our panelists this time. So I know he's always moderating for us, which we love, but I loved hearing more of your insights today, Art. And so we get to hear you again on the 16th. And it's going to be moderated by Casey Tonnelly, who's amazing, D&I strategist and owner and coach of Beyond Thinking. Check them out. And join us. Sherry's going to provide a link right now to a Zoom link actually for this free event. We hope you can join us in February. Who knows? Maybe we'll convince Martina to join this panelist group. We'll see, because she's also another rock star. These are all actually former panelists of ours that we've invited back. So I feel like we need to get you, Martina. I'll work on it. And lastly, we have some other exciting news. We're launching a D&I microlearning training program in partnership with Blue Ocean Brain, where you can receive certification as a D&I executive with our amazing D&I facilitator, Casey Tonnelly. So you can also go at your own pace if you want and do our on-demand track or have a customized solution for your team. Regardless of where you are, we'd love to just share more information with you if you're interested. So if you are interested in learning more, we're really close to launching a page with all the information you could possibly need or want. But just drop your email in the chat box to let us know that you do want to be informed when we have our page up and running, and you can pre-register once that's up. So let us know by just dropping your email in the chat box right now, and we'll make sure you get all that info. That is it. I promise, let you all go and enjoy your evening, especially you, Martina, because it's 7 o'clock, right?
Yes, it is 7 o'clock. And speaking of value purpose, in Birmingham, it is the Magic City Classic, the largest HBCU classic in the world. And Protective is sponsoring it. So I'm going to party.
Yes.
Rock out.
Take us with you.
I'm going to party. Yes. We're excited.
Enjoy that. Thank you for your transparency, your creativity, your humor tonight. It was just a lot of fun. So thank you for being with us. Everyone, thank you again. Look forward to connecting with you on LinkedIn. Have a great night.
Yeah, unmute yourselves, everybody, and share some love, Art and Martina. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I love it. Love it. Love it.
Martina, I will hit you up.
Hit me up, Art. And Sherry and Danielle, anytime. I would love to. By the way, you have my email, so get me on the email list, and I want to get all the good stuff. And
oh yeah, we got to put.
I want to come back and listen to all y'all know everybody. Y'all know all the good people.
I would be happy to, Martina. That would be great.
Yes.
Bring her back. Bring her back.
Part of our family now.
Oh my God. Thank you so much. You're just such a dear. Thank you so much.
Seriously, it's great.
Enjoy, everyone.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.